Hey Reddit. I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these posts, but here I am. I'm a 34-year-old guy, married to my wife, Lily, who's 32. We've been together since college. From the outside, people always said we looked like the perfect couple. You know, house in the suburbs, golden retriever, dinner parties with friends. I thought we were solid. Like, rock solid. But something changed. Slowly. I can't even tell you the exact moment it started. Maybe around March? Lily got distant. Not cold, just not there. Like her body was in the room, but her mind was somewhere else. She started guarding her phone like it held nuclear codes. Lock screen, silence mode, always turned face down. She would laugh at texts and say it was her coworker group chat. She started staying late at work a lot. And even when she was home, her head wasn't. I didn't want to be that insecure, paranoid husband. I chose to trust her. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? Then came this night. I made her favorite dinner, lasagna from scratch. I had candles, wine, the whole thing. At 6:45, she texted, "Working late. Don't wait up." No explanation. No apology. Just like that. Then there was the company retreat, 3 days at some fancy resort. Normally, she'd be excited, blasting music while packing. This time? Cold. Robotic. She barely said a word. And then, she made a mistake. While she was gone, I needed to charge my phone. Mine was dead. I grabbed her charger and plugged it in, but when I did, her iCloud synced with my phone. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear. But suddenly, there it was. A photo. Lily. In bed. Not our bed. With a man I didn't recognize. She was smiling, half naked, curled into him. Caption? "Can't wait to feel you again next weekend, kissing face emoji." I froze. My hands were shaking. My stomach turned inside out. Even the dog seemed to feel something was wrong. That moment shattered me. It was the beginning of the end. Or maybe the beginning of something I never saw coming. I wish I could say I confronted her right away. I didn't. I sat there, staring at that photo for at least an hour. Every bone in my body wanted to scream. But something inside me said, "Don't act yet. Gather everything." So, I started digging. I went through her iCloud, texts, photos, even notes. And what I found. It wasn't just one guy. His name was Jordan. A co-worker. Apparently, they'd been working late together for months, if you know what I mean. Hotel receipts, selfies, dinner dates. It was all there. But it didn't stop with him. There were flirty texts to someone named Mason, a guy she met on a girls' night out. A few messages here and there with emojis, late-night messages like "thinking of you," winking face emoji, nothing physical confirmed, but it didn't feel innocent either. I started replaying every moment in my head. That retreat? It wasn't a company retreat. I found a receipt for a 2-person spa package booked under a fake name, hers. That weekend she said she was visiting her mom. GPS showed her phone parked outside a downtown hotel. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I looked at Lily and didn't recognize her anymore. This wasn't just cheating, it was a double life. And here's the worst part. She was still acting like nothing was wrong. Still kissing me goodbye in the mornings. Still texting me "love you." Still sleeping next to me at night. It was surreal. Like living in a movie where you're the only one who knows the plot twist. But I had a plan now. I wasn't going to scream or cry. I was going to collect every single like, every photo, every message, every receipt. And when the time came, I'd let her watch the movie I'd been forced to live through. I picked a normal Tuesday evening. Nothing suspicious. Dinner was spaghetti, her favorite. I set the table, poured 2 glasses of red wine, and waited like it was any other night. She walked in, smiling, texting someone. Probably Jordan. Or Mason. Who knows at this point? We ate. I forced small talk. She talked about a coworker drama like we were still a team, like nothing was off. But I was counting heartbeats. Then, I stood up. I told her I needed to show her something. I opened my laptop and hit play. I had created a slideshow. I'm not kidding, like a twisted version of a high school project. Each slide had a photo, a date, and a brief description. Jordan at the hotel spa. Mason's texts. Her retreat GPS data. Everything. She didn't speak at first. She just stared. Pale. Silent. Then the gaslighting started. "It's not what it looks like. That was months ago. I was drunk. You're being dramatic. We were just talking. I stayed calm. I told her, you lied to my face for months. You made me believe we had something real, and all this time, you were somewhere else. With someone else. Or worse, with multiple someone else's. She broke. Tears. Screaming. Accusations. She said I'd been distant, too focused on work. That I didn't touch her like I used to. Classic blame shifting. I sat there while she spiraled, throwing every excuse she could find at the wall, hoping one would stick. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just watched. Like a man watching the last few seconds of a burning bridge collapse into the river. It was over. After the confrontation, she stormed out of the kitchen and locked herself in the bathroom. I just sat there, staring at my half-eaten plate of spaghetti like it might explain something to me. It didn't. Later that night, she came out, mascara running, acting like everything could be fixed with one dramatic apology. She said she was confused, she said she loved me, but felt lost. She swore it wasn't about sex, it was emotional. Right. Because emotional betrayal feels so much better. I asked her if there was anyone else I didn't know about. She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than any answer could have. That night, I slept on the couch. Correction, I lay on the couch. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, mind racing in circles. How do you go from building a life with someone to wondering who they really are? The next morning, she made breakfast like it was any other Wednesday. She even packed my lunch. Like a scene from a twisted sitcom, pretending like things weren't shattered beyond repair. I told her I needed space. That I couldn't trust her, and without trust, there's nothing. She started crying again, begged me not to leave, said she'd go to therapy, delete social media, give me passwords, whatever it took. But it was all noise. Desperate, panic noise. I didn't leave that day. Not yet. But something inside me already had. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. So I did what any hurt, suspicious husband might do, I started digging. I went through old text messages she deleted but forgot to clear from her iCloud backup. There were more conversations. Different names. Different men. One guy called her baby and thanked her for the amazing weekend in Chicago. We hadn't been to Chicago in over a year. Another guy was saved under a fake name, Megan's work. Cute trick. I'm not even sure how many there were at that point. Was it 2? 3? Was it just emotional with some, or physical with all? Suddenly, every girl's trip and late night at the office felt like a lie. Every innocent laugh, every kiss, every I love you, replayed in my head with a darker meaning. I felt like a fool. But worse, I felt like a stranger in my own marriage. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. It was the slow unraveling of every truth I thought I knew. Still, I didn't confront her again. Not yet. Instead, I started planning. Because if this was going to end, it was going to end on my terms. I knew I needed proof, something undeniable, something that would make her own lies crumble. So, I set a trap. I sent her a message from a burner phone, pretending to be a stranger interested in meeting up. I wanted to see how she'd react. If she'd bite. Within minutes, she replied, quick and casual. It wasn't just a flirtatious text. It was a plan. A secret meeting place. A time. I took screenshots, saved every word. That night, I stayed up waiting. And when she left the house, I followed. Her steps took her to a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place people use when they want to disappear. I watched from my car as she walked in, the door closing behind her. That was the final straw. I realized there was no saving this marriage, only damage control. But first, I had to prepare myself for the fallout. The next day, I barely managed to get through work. My mind was a whirlwind of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I kept replaying that motel scene over and over. When Lily came home that evening, I was ready. I told her everything I knew, every message, every lie, every secret meeting. Her reaction? Cold silence at first. Then, a bitter laugh. You really thought you could catch me? Pathetic. I felt my world collapse again. She wasn't remorseful. She wasn't sorry. She was defiant. That's when I knew this wasn't just about cheating, it was a power game. I decided then and there, I wasn't going to let her control the narrative anymore. I realized I had to take control, not just of the situation, but of my own life. I started documenting everything, every conversation, every suspicious detail, every lie she told me from that moment on. I reached out to a lawyer. I needed to know my rights, how to protect myself and our assets. Friends noticed the change in me. Some offered support, others distanced themselves, awkward about what to say. But the hardest part was looking at Lily. The woman I loved, or thought I did, had become a stranger. I still held on to hope, though. Maybe there was a way to fix this. Or maybe not. Either way, I was done being blind. After weeks of tension and silence, I finally decided to confront her with an ultimatum. I told Lily she had two choices: come clean and work on our marriage, or face the consequences of her actions, including separation. Her response was shocking. She laughed. Said she was done playing my games. That she'd already made her decision long ago. That moment broke me. But it also freed me. I realized I couldn't keep fighting for someone who didn't want to fight for us. It was time to start thinking about my future, alone. The days after the ultimatum were the hardest. Lily moved out. The silence in the house was deafening. Every corner reminded me of what we lost. But slowly, I started picking up the pieces of my shattered life. I leaned on friends, took time off work, and focused on myself for the first time in years. It wasn't easy. Loneliness hit hard. But with every day, I felt a little stronger. I realized that sometimes, letting go is the only way to heal. And maybe, just maybe, this painful ending was the beginning of something new, for both of us. As the weeks turned into months, I started to rebuild my life. Therapy helped me process the betrayal and the pain. I learned to set boundaries, to value myself again. I stopped looking back and focused on the future, a future where I wouldn't be defined by her lies. I started new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and even dated again. It wasn't about rushing into something new, but about rediscovering who I was without her. Every day was a step forward. A step toward healing. A step toward hope. One day, out of the blue, Lily reached out. She wanted to talk. To explain. I was torn, part of me wanted answers, the other part feared reopening old wounds. We met at a quiet cafe. She apologized, claimed she'd been lost and confused. Said she regretted hurting me. I listened, more to find peace than to forgive. That conversation didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the past. But it gave me something I hadn't had for months: closure. And sometimes, that's enough to move on. Looking back, I realize how much this experience changed me. I learned hard truths about trust, love, and betrayal. But more importantly, I learned about resilience. I found strength I didn't know I had. I learned to listen to my gut. To set boundaries. To never settle for less than I deserve. This journey broke me, but it also rebuilt me. And while I can't erase the pain, I'm grateful for the clarity it brought. Now, I'm focused on the future, not haunted by the past. I'm learning to trust again, but this time, wisely. I'm opening my heart slowly, cautiously, but with hope. Life isn't perfect. But I'm starting to see that sometimes, the hardest endings lead to the best beginnings. I'm finally ready to believe in happiness again. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about survival, growth, and finding yourself when everything falls apart. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: I'm stronger now. Wiser. Ready. If there's one thing I want anyone going through this to know, you're not alone. And sometimes, losing someone is the best way to find yourself. Thanks for listening, Reddit. If you've been through something similar, I'd love to hear your story. And for anyone struggling right now, hang in there. It gets better. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories like this.